Thank you for coming. We as an organization just wanted to express our deepest condolences and sadness for the passing of Johnny Bower, obviously to his wife Nancy, his children, his grandchildren, and his great-grandchildren. It's a sad day that goes beyond just the city of Toronto and beyond the hockey world. Johnny really led an incredible life and touched the lives of so many, and will be deeply missed.
When did you first meet him?
I first met Johnny personally when I started working for the Maple Leafs, but he was a legend in the sense that you didn't have to be living in Toronto or working here for the Maple Leafs to know about his spirit and to hear the stories of his generosity and his charity and his not to mention his accomplishments on the ice as a player.
Can you explain when he met the organization? I mean, he was still out there making appearances on behalf of the Leafs until just a couple of weeks ago.
Well, there's not a single player in Toronto Maple Leafs history that has done more appearances and done more charity events and charity work than Johnny Bower. So for a generation of Maple Leaf fans, they remember him for his play on the ice, and there's a whole new generation of kids and young fans that don't really know him for the goalie, but just know him for his charity and generosity and good-naturedness and warmth. You really could never, I've never in my time here, and I hear this from a lot of people, nobody ever really came upon Johnny Bower at any moment, at any time, at any hour, and saw that he was uncomfortable, frustrated, impatient. He was never any of those things. Anytime somebody saw Johnny Bower, they came away with a great experience. He's a great lesson for all of us.
How did he connect with the players of today?
Well, I think the first thing that the players of today look at and respect are his accomplishments on the ice and his Stanley Cups and his abilities, and that immediately puts him in a certain place. And then to see him off the ice and just see that, like I said, his generosity, his warmth, his humor, I think for a lot of players today, they look at somebody like that and they think that this is a great example of what we all aspire to be.
You know, for you as a young boy growing up in Toronto, when you heard the name Johnny Bower, what did it mean to you?
Well, not too many people in sports, have a name where it almost becomes a verb. So if you were playing street hockey and you poke check somebody, you yell Johnny Bower. I just Johnny Bowered you. So before, I'd never seen Johnny play as a young kid, but I knew that this was the man that invented the poke check growing up here in Toronto. So it wasn't until the last few years where I actually got to know him on a more personal level and really saw up close what everybody talked about.
You know, one of the coolest things about Johnny Bower is the fact that he played at such an old age. Like, I think his rookie year was about 29. Then I think when he was in 1967, when he was with the Leafs, nobody really knew his age. They're always guessing about it.
Well, it's pretty incredible that he had an entire career in the American Hockey League before he ever played for the Maple Leafs. And I remember reading something about him when I first got here that as a rookie, he was the oldest member of the Toronto Maple Leafs and never played a game for the Maple Leafs when he was not the oldest player on his team. So, and then went on to win 4 Stanley Cups and be obviously instrumental in those wins. So it's really. It's not a story you hear about. He was a unique person and has a very unique story.
What was his reaction when you surprised the players last year and told them that their numbers would all be retired?
Johnny's reaction at the time when we told them about their sweaters being retired was typical. It was gracious. He was appreciative, and I think he followed it up with a little joke, and that was him. He, like I said, he was at a lot of events for our team and in this city and in the community. Always had a ton of energy and was just extremely good-natured. So he's going to be dearly, dearly missed.
What was through a lot of the lean years when fan support might not have been so high? Johnny was always here with the club making public appearances. What does that say to you about his long-lasting support?
Well, Johnny loved being a Leaf, and in retirement he loved being a Leaf, and he loved the team. And as much as he did a lot of public appearances, he also did a lot of private ones as well. So here's a Hockey Hall of Famer that would dress up as Santa Claus for the players and their kids and their families, and he did a lot of things behind the scenes as well. So regardless of where the Leafs were in the standings, Johnny's love for the Maple Leafs never wavered. And that's why, we said we don't really know of a former player that was as loved by Leaf fans, but loved them back equally as much.
Any plans to memorialize him as of yet? I know it's early.
Yeah, we're respecting the family's privacy, wish for privacy at the time, and this did happen quite suddenly. So we'll be, I'm sure we'll communicate with them at a later date.
Team have done a lot to remember the Leafs of the past. We have Legends Row standing behind us now. Just being a little bit more to say, Johnny will be remembered forever here.
Well, we were just talking on the way down that we were at least happy that Johnny got to see some of the things that have been done in this 100-year celebration. And at the conclusion of the 100th year. Looking back, Johnny was around for pretty much all of the celebrations. He was properly recognized, and Maple Leaf fans had an opportunity to give him and show him their love. So we were, if there's a silver lining, we were happy that this was a year in which Leaf fans, people in Toronto, were able to recognize and shine a light on people like Johnny Bower.
It is a very different game compared to the time when Johnny was playing. But what do you think young players in the city today can learn from Johnny?
I think that the biggest thing that young players in this city, or really in any city, or really just we'll stick with sports. Any young athlete, whatever the sport he plays, can look at a player like John Bower and just say, regardless of his success, it never went to his head. He was always very conscientious about the community he lived in. So he was more than just a hockey player. He was an ambassador to every community he ever lived in.
Could you have played till 47 like he did?
No, especially in that position.
When you talk about pride, honor, and courage as the motto for this team, is it fair to say that Johnny was pretty much front of mind when you think of a slogan like that?
Well, I think that I refer to some of the players that have played here, and how they refer to him, and some of the men who are still here that are on Legends Row with him, and how they revere him. So Johnny absolutely represented the pride, honor, courage that Conn Smythe talked about when he first changed the sweater from a St. Pat to a Toronto Maple Leaf. Johnny was a great representation of what he wanted in a Leaf, and still is today. Thank you. Thanks for coming in the cold. Thank you.
Thanks, Brent.